Watching Ben Television, the Bridging the Gap channel.
Tonight is going to be Good evening, you're welcome to Politricks with Ko. My name is Kayode Ogundamisi, and tonight is going to be a great night because we're going to discuss corruption and the Nigerian judiciary. We all know that Nigeria is rated as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. We're actually competing with Pakistan in terms of knowing who is going to come top as the most corrupt country in the world. But particularly as the Nigerian judiciary, what is happening? Tonight I'm bringing in two very experienced Nigerian legal practitioners, Barrister Bamidele Aturu. Barrister Aturu is an activist. He's sacrificed so much for his country, been in and out of prison during the pro-democracy struggle. And I do have Ajulo Kayode, who is also a legal practitioner in Abuja, Nigeria. Kayode Ajulo has done a lot of fantastic stuff in terms of intervening at various times, especially in the later period of the current democracy as it is. But before then, I'll pass you on to Ngozi. Ngozi is regular on Politricks with Ko, and I just want to also have a feel chill of what is happening in the UK and the world, apart from politics. Ngozi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kay. Yes. I'm going to start off with some interesting stories I've been collecting in the news over the past week. First of all, this one of the Apple prank. I don't know if any of you out there have heard of it. So basically what somebody or somebodies have done is they've gone through the social media sites and they've posted this thing that says that if you upgrade your Apple products, i.e. your iPhone or iPod or your iPad, that if you upgrade it to the latest operating system, which is the iOS 7, that is, it automatically downloads a software into your product that makes your product, your Apple product that is, water resistant. Now, of course, quite a few people, I've been following this one on Twitter, and quite a few people have obviously done it because there's been some angry tweets happening recently showing that people have actually tried out this theory by dunking their phones or the Apple products anyway in water to test out this theory. And in the end, what they've ended up doing is just destroying their gadgets. So this is one for you. If you see this, it's a prank because Apple certainly hasn't commented on it, not to my knowledge anyway. But then again, why should they? So that's one of the weird ones. The other weird story that I've collected this week is Chessington World of Adventure. Now, Chessington World of Adventure have created this simulated safari park. And what they've done is they have actually banned visitors to their park from wearing any kind of animal print clothing. What they say, the reason for this is because the animal print clothing that people wear to the park confuses the animals in the park by making them do one of two things, i.e. is either they've started trying to communicate with people wearing these clothes, thinking that they are fellow animals, or they run away from them thinking that they are predators. So Chessington World of Adventure has actually banned everybody and anybody who wants to absolutely wear any type of animal print clothing, including cheetah or leopard print or anything. So anybody who's a lover of animal print clothing, you've been warned. Moving on, entertainment. So the governor of California has passed on this law to protect the children of stars from being harassed by paparazzi. Now, apparently, stars have complained over and over and over again, so this law has been passed on. And the other thing about it is, where before they were liable to about £1,000 in equivalent of fine, now it's up to £10,000, as well as facing up to 1 whole year in jail. Now, stars like Halle Berry and Jennifer Garner, to name a few, have said that they are wholeheartedly supporting this law because they themselves, or their kids rather, have been victims of this sort of harassment in the past. That takes me on to football. Now, football, what is going on with football? I am excited as what's happening. Have you seen the Premier League table going on? The two North London rivals, Arsenal and Tottenham, are the ones who are dominating the Premier League table, with, of course, Arsenal leading on ahead with goal difference. I think it's amazing. But, you know, some people, fans of Chelsea and Manchester United respectively, are saying that this is bound to change. And we're thinking, who knows what's going to happen? Is this going to remain the same? Let's wait and see, because, as you know, Tottenham and Chelsea have got a match this Saturday. And, of course, with our very own Mikel Obi scoring, you never know. Things are bound to change. Let's just wait and see what happens with that one. And keeping it on football, the statue of Michael Jackson that's been on Fulham football ground for the past 2.5 years has now finally been torn down. I used to live in Fulham a couple of years ago, and I remember that there was this huge palaver over it, saying that fans didn't want it there. And I don't know if anybody remembers. If you remember, the former owner of the football club, Mr. Al Fayed, told them to, and I quote, "go to hell." But the current owner now, Mr. Khan, has finally tore it down, packed it up and shipped it to Mr. Al Fayed, saying that fans don't want it, and so he has to do what his fans say. So, you know, I'm sure Fulham fans are very happy with that one. I'm going to conclude, obviously, with the Kenya siege that's been going on, which finally and thankfully has ended. The Westgate Shopping Centre in Nairobi, we all know about this terror attack that happened there. Of course, officials are saying that hard questions are going to be asked following this, and sort of questions involve things like, why would a nation who are actually allowed to frisk anybody, including children, before they go into any public area, cannot foresee this kind of a thing happening, or, you know, miss this kind of thing happening? But the questions have got to be put aside for now, because the nation has called a 3-day mourning period, which started yesterday. And also, nationals have come together to donate blood for injured victims. Having said this, it's worth mentioning that foreign security and foreign countries have come together, including UK, USA, Canada, and Germany, and of course Interpol, to investigate this siege. That concludes it for me. I'm going to see you here next week. But before I go, Kaide, what is this thing about former Lagos State Governor Bola Tinubu being paralyzed?
Okay. Bola Tinubu is not paralyzed. Nigerians should know, please, Bola Tinubu is not paralyzed. You guys should stop that rumor. How can a whole Asiwaju be paralyzed? And I've got evidence to prove that he's not paralyzed. Take this. This is a video released by Bola Tinubu's media handlers to prove the former governor is not paralyzed. Who am I to say that it's ridiculous? I dare not say it's a ridiculous way to prove that a senator isn't paralyzed. But I've got two people in the studio who are not paralyzed, evidently. I've got Barrister Bamidele Aturu and then Barrister Ajulo. We're here to speak about corruption and the Nigerian judiciary. First, I'll start with Barrister Aturu. You're welcome to London. Welcome to Ben TV.
Thank you very much, Kayode. The pleasure is mine.
Now, how corrupt is the Nigerian judiciary?
Well, I think that it's not just an open secret. I think it's an open sore. It's there for everybody to see. That's for those who don't live in some form of self-denial, indefensible self-denial, that is. There's no doubt, given the punishments that have been reeled out by the NJC in respect of judges who have been asked to leave the bench, that we're dealing with a problem of very embarrassing proportions. But the problem is that I think the way the NJC itself has been dealing with the issue has been quite unfair to Nigerian people, in the sense that if you have evidence that a judge compromised himself or herself while exercising the functions of a judge, it is not sufficient to ask such a judge to quit the bench. We would have expected that such a judge will be handed over to the law enforcement agencies, particularly the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, to be prosecuted and dealt with according to law. I think until we begin to see such a scenario, we are still going to be complaining, and I think that's not going to help us.
Wow. Okay, Kayode, I just have to tell you this story. I know a man who was a common thief in London, and when I say common, I mean unsophisticated thief, a supermarket thief, and he ended up going to Nigeria to become a governor. And all I just did in the UK, and many Nigerians did in the UK, was go into a public library, and you can see records of this man being a common thief. And this man almost became the president of Nigeria. How come Ibori, convicted in the UK, became so powerful in Nigeria and was able to use the judiciary in perpetuating himself?
Well, we've said it all, and I'm sure Barrister Tulu has already raised this issue, particularly when it comes to corruption. This is not an open secret again, it's more of open source. And I can say the scenario you just painted now is more or less of a tragedy of a nation going under. And that's why you can see that we are discussing about this. We are raising it. I'm sure back home, many people will be so shocked that why should you be doing that? Particularly, why must you do it there? Because we have the power that be refused to hear there, and I believe they need to hear somewhere else. The issue is this, about the Ibori. The case is so clear. What happened to the man, and it's so clear how the whole thing come about. But one thing I want us to know is this: not that one is trying to exonerate judiciary, but when it comes to the issue of Ibori, it is more than judiciary that they find themselves there. Even the prosecutors, you find out at the end of the day, it's like more or less like conspiracy to shortchange the country, conspiracy to embarrass the country, because what we are doing there is more or less embarrassed. But the question is, this thing it did not start today. It has been on. Because when you look at the police case very well, right down from prosecutor, I felt so bad sometimes when everybody keep on saying judiciary made such thing to happen. Not more than that, because by the time you saw, if you fall, and funny enough, really, when the first time we started this case, I filed a case in the High Court that Ibori should be tried, if you remember, asking for mandamus way before when his kinsman led by Chief Clerk brought case against him in the EFCC, and when they refused, they were in court. Now,
it's funny you mention Chief Clerk, because Chief Clerk fighting corruption is like Edwin Clark fighting corruption is like I beg your pardon. It's like, I don't even want to say this on here, but it's like the devil fighting.
No, I will not allow that, because one thing.
This is a man who is benefiting from this government.
No, let us try to distinguish the whole thing. If we are discussing an established case of corruption, fine, we should do that. And one thing we should know is this: if somebody can stand today to say, "Look, I want to fight this," I think you're giving that benefit. And for this one, and to get to a point of conviction, let's give it to him.
Okay.
We'll one out. But one thing I want to say is that because I purposely raised this issue by the time you mentioned judiciary, in Ibori's case, it is more like a structural conspiracy to ensure that this one happens. Because in a situation where you see a prosecutor writing charges that you know that cannot take anybody anywhere, you know something will go wrong.
I would go to Barrister Bamidele Okoyemi. I know there's a different you see, that's why it's not good to have people who've got relationship. We've been in and out of prison together for the country, so we're probably. But let me ask you this: I know there's a difference between the bar and the bench. In terms of this corruption we're talking about in the judiciary, where is it more profound? Is it amongst lawyers or the judges?
Well, you see, my attitude to corruption or discourses on corruption has always been to call attention to the need to attempt a clinical distinction between looking at the whole country, looking at the system, and also looking at the elite, because I think it's important so that we don't lose focus. For me, we are so unfortunate to be in the grip of a very banal and corrupt ruling elite in Nigeria. And I think that it is not useful to begin to try to separate one faction of the elite, and then give it a clean bill of health, as it were, while we excoriate the other faction. In other words, I have taken the view, and I think that it's sound, that the ruling elite in Nigeria are generally reckless, generally corrupt, generally irresponsible, and above all, they don't even have a sense of history. These are not patriotic people. And that is why I think that when we're talking about corruption, or, I mean, discussing how to solve the problem of corruption, we must make the point that we will not arrive at any reasonable conclusion if we begin to try to find which among the ruling class elements.
But what makes the Nigerian ruling elite different from the ruling elite in Ghana? I mean, that's
what I'm telling. That's the point I'm making. You see, the backwardness of our ruling elite is so obvious in the sense that you find, I mean, you come to London, travel to other places, you find that generally human beings have a tendency, if they are not checked, if there are no laws that are enforced, to want to be selfish, particularly with capitalism that promotes this excessive individualism. But the point is that when you go to other advanced countries, there are laws, and these laws are enforced. I mean, you can't say because your father or mother is the prime minister of this country, then you will drive recklessly or you will steal money. I mean, you see the way they dealt with even members of parliament who are supposed to be, you know, spending more than they should, they're entitled to. I mean, but if it were in Nigeria, this would not have happened because the ruling elite have taken this view that, look, the resources of the country, you know, belong to them. So there is this sense of privatizing public funds in Nigeria. And there is this idea that, look, laws are not meant for people who are big men and big women, quote unquote. And so when you have this kind of recklessness, this culture of impunity, then it breeds corruption. And that is why I've said that, look, when, I mean, to go directly to your question, for me, it's not useful to begin to try to measure which or whether lawyers are more corrupt than judges. The truth is that we find generalized corruption in Nigeria among lawyers, among judges. And but the point I'm making is that if the NJC has found some judges guilty, up to the point of removing them from the bench, then they shouldn't stop there. We should get these people prosecuted because, I mean, at the level of symbolism, this will show people that, look, no matter your position, even on the judiciary, you can't steal and get away with it. But what do we get today? Yes.
Sorry to cut you. Now, Barrister Aturu mentioned the National Judicial Council, which is the NGC, for our viewers in the UK. How independent is the NJC? Because they are meant to discipline corrupt judges. Correct me if I'm wrong. How independent is this body?
Well, when you looked at NJC very well, NJC is like what we have, like National Midwifery and Council. We have the Dental Association. We are there to regulate, they are to discipline, they are to ensure that the judicial officers, they are doing what they are being paid for, and they are doing what the law expected them to do, and that is one of the things. And like from what he has mentioned earlier, when you looked at the NJC, there are some things that we are expecting them to do, particularly when it comes to discipline, because the major thing is this. One of the things is that for you to have signed to be a judge, there are some things that people are expecting from you. You should live above board. And when we are talking of corruption, everywhere corruption is everywhere. When it comes to an institution like judiciary, why people raise their eyes and where we're a little bit worried is that when it comes to judiciary, that is where we shouldn't have that problem. Now, coming to the NJC, and that's why you believe that discipline to enforce the law, that is more or less the basic thing they should be doing. And the procedure, that is one of the problems we're having. Because when we're talking of independence of that of that council, the best way is that they need to let everybody, we need to know what they are doing. Because by the time they will go to it's more or less like Pope when they are going into the cave, and after 2 or 3 days they will come out, oh, we have already suspended this. How manage? What are the procedure? If we can have today in courts, which is open to everybody in the public, then I think when it comes to that measure, Nigerians, people need to know how did you get to this point.
We've talked about the NJC, and I would come back to the judges. Now, the NBA, which is the Nigerian Bar Association, is the umbrella body for Nigerian lawyers. What are they doing in terms of corruption on the side of lawyers themselves? We see lawyers getting involved. I know you've said we shouldn't emphasize on the judiciary alone, but yes, we really want to know, because the judiciary is like one of the most important parts of the segment of our society. I mean, what's the role of NBA in checking corrupt legal practitioners?
Well, I don't think, I'm sorry, I mean, my colleagues will know, the NBA used to be one of the very few patriotic organizations that participated in the struggle against military despotism in our country. And so it is not possible for anybody to write off the contributions of the Nigerian Bar Association. People still remember the sterling contributions of late Allah Kabashonu, of blessed memory, and even people like late Chief Ganfawemi, also of blessed memory. People should not forget that Ganfawemi was one of the leaders of the NBA. I think he was in the 60s, the National Public Secretary of that organization. So the NBA emerged in the crucible of the struggle, to fight for a developed Nigeria, a Nigeria where equality counts and is respected. And so we can't just wish away those contributions. But today, and I've said this openly, the NBA is in the grip of a cabal. And this is lamentable. I wrote an article, I think, about 9 months ago.
So the NBA has joined NAN's modern NBA.
Yes, which I call the cabalization of the NBA. I mean, you have an organization that is just interested in winning, juicy briefs for some of its leading lights. You have an organization that has become a platform, for seeking favors from the powers that be in Nigeria. And so you have an organization that has lost, is raising the tar, if you like. An organization that does not, that no longer, champions the interest of the people. An organization that cannot be counted upon as championing those things, that made it tick. So for me, I don't really, these days, people know, I use the period of NBA conferences to either do other things that I consider to be a priority.
You're probably taking the part of your mentor. I recall Chief Ganefawemi defied the NBA at some point.
Yes, I must say it, and I say it very clearly, with all sorts of responsibility, the NBA cannot be relied upon, as an organization for change in Nigeria. In other words, it is not useful as an organization for the kind of things that people who are forward-looking would like to see. Which also means that when I say it's not useful, another way of saying that it's a useless organization. So, I say it because it's very important for us to make these points very clear and categorical, so that people know that we don't take some of these people seriously. When I say MBA, I'm not saying that Nigerian lawyers as a whole should be rubbished. I'm saying that the cabal that owns MBA today, that uses MBA, for base patronage here and there, it's not a serious amicable.
Barrister too. Now, the plea bargain, is that another name for corruption? The use of plea bargain, the Nigerian political class seems to be the one to benefit a lot from plea bargain. You were a lawyer to, what's her name again? The bank, Oceanic Bank, woman, you were involved in...
No, we're involved to enforce a fundamental right. When it comes to the main issue, it's another law.
So, Cecilia, Ibu benefited...
Sure. One thing we have to know is about plea bargain, like I kept saying, is this. When it comes to plea bargain, it's more or less another advanced level of corruption. Because, particularly when you looked at the fundamentals that how plea bargain, we can say they are doing it, the way it's being practiced in Nigeria is more or less even trying to make what we are trying to restrain people from doing is trying to even help them, to encourage them to do that. Because in a situation where you are asking somebody that stole like 200 million to now release for some part of it and decide to go free, then another person is that you are doing business and tomorrow someone says, oh, since I'm going to part with some part, then this is what I'm going to do. Like what we're saying is this: for you to really fight this monster is to really go critical against it. And the best way is that this reward and punishment. I remember from elementary school, this is what my teacher taught me, that if you do this, but unfortunately, those that are supposed to be rewarded, they are the ones facing the music, and those that are supposed to be punished are the ones that seem to be rewarded. That is why, plea bargain, as far as I'm concerned, is like you are rewarding criminality. Because in a situation like doing business, if I should hold the money, I should steal it, and you ask me to bring some fraction of it, and I'll be set loose. When what kind of thing? And one thing I want to know is this: any state, any nation that decide to believe that they want to go and play bargain, it's like giving our robbers, thieves amnesty. It's like the same thing. That shows that the institution of that government, they already crumble. They cannot do anything.
Okay, Barrister Chu, now let me ask you this. Why does it take so long to get justice for the common man? But it seems to be quite easy to get justice for those in power and those who have friends in government. Why is it so difficult for the common man to get justice?
Well, it's because the Nigerian judiciary, contrary to what many half-baked analysts suggest, is not really the last hope of the common person. I've spent the last 10 years of my life, professional life, trying to debunk or explode this myth. It is not true that the judiciary, as it is composed today in Nigeria, is or can be the last hope of the common person, whatever that means. Because each time we have cases decided by the judiciary that people celebrate to high heavens, note it's always about cases between or among very rich people, wealthy politicians, and then the press would publish and say, oh, they've done justice, we should celebrate them. I mean, when you have cases that are won by governors and their cronies, those are not common people by any standards. Have you ever heard of landlord and tenant cases in Ajegunle ever getting to the Supreme Court, let alone the Supreme Court pronouncing on them? So how can the Supreme Court be the last hope of the common people when they cannot even access the Supreme Court, when they cannot even afford to pay lawyers? I mean, when the cost of filing cases of pursuing justice is prohibitive, when there are unnecessary delays in court, you file cases and these cases last up to 5 years, it's a shame. That was why I said, look, the corruption we have in the judiciary is an open source. I mean, in this country, for example, this country where we're having this interview, people are so proud of their judiciary, in spite of the fact that generally those who may take less analysis may not even see judiciary as representing the common people. But then they're so proud that they even see their judiciary as one avenue that people can go and visit as tourism. People go to see. I mean,
question of the barristers in the studio. There is a clause in the Constitution that kind of paid the defendants of corrupt politicians to store cases for months and even years. I'm not exactly sure what the clause is, but I'm sure the barristers there would know. What are all the barristers like yourselves doing to press or put more pressure on the National Assembly to get this clause off the Constitution so that corruption cases can be done as quickly as possible so that we can get cases so that people...
Barrister, to respond to that.
Yes, well, thank you very much. I mean, the callers have made very useful contributions. For me, I'm not responding as such to what they have said, but to perhaps agree with them. But what I would say is that we should not just be lamenting the state of affairs in our country. There is no doubt, I mean, to the last caller who was talking about Nigerian police and whether they are capable of assembling evidence to successfully prosecute any offender in Nigerian courts. I agree with you absolutely. But the truth is that the Nigerian state has become a rogue state. And what I mean by a rogue state is a state where it pays to be a criminal, where only criminals are in power. And when you have such a state, everything that the powers that be will do will just be to encourage the system of looting. The kind of rapacious looting of our treasury that we see in place is going on because we have a rogue state. But you are not going to deal with a rogue state by just fulminating against it, by just talking against it. You are going to deal with a rogue state by acting against it. Yeah. And that is why we need to mobilize our people. That is why we need to organize our people, to let them know that there are alternative ways of running a country. And that these people that are running Nigeria, they're certainly not the best. And when I say people running Nigeria, I don't want anybody to mistake me for supporting one party against the other. I've taken the view that all the mainstream political parties, and I think I will not tire of making this point again and again. They are essentially, the same. Because we have a chapter of our Constitution known as Chapter 2. It is called the Fundamental Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy. I mean, this chapter prescribes how governance should be in Nigeria. People should have decent houses. People should have jobs. There should be equal pay for equal work. I mean, you should treat the children, with humaneness. I mean, and now what you have is that these people who are in government today, whether of PDP or any party, APC, they are doing the same thing all over the place. So for me, I think Nigeria must be looking at the third option. Nigeria must be thinking about how do we, negate this existing mainstream political parties. That is the only way you are going to solve the problem.
I have, Kayode, Aturu just made a very valid point. We need a third force, whether it's the judiciary or the executive or the legislature. That we are still going in for more of the same. What's your position on that? Do we?
Well, you put it right, because we have been discussing this. As it is today, it's quite so unfortunate that Nigerian electorate, they are being left without any option, because it's like buying the same car but with different paints, with different colors. And when you have such a thing, you know you have a problem. Yeah. And like what he said, I would like to really realize it. When it comes to Nigeria, need not to be complaining. I've been to this country for the past almost a week. What is lamentation? We did not need to do that. We need to educate our people. We need to really try to have another force to ensure that, look, this government belongs to the people. It is not, maybe we should be using that by doing that as programming everywhere. We must take positive. People send money home. When you are sending money home, try to educate your people too. This is what you should do, so that next time people will not ask money from you again.
Before I take Anthony, I just want to inform Nigerians that some brave Nigerians today, when Statue mentioned about taking action, brave Nigerians stormed the National Assembly today, insisting on wanting to know about the salary of lawmakers. I mean, the protest was very well organized on social media, and they were able to get quite a number of people to storm the National Assembly to ask questions about from the lawmakers. That is taking action. We've got a caller online. Good evening. Hello, good evening. Okay, just if you want. Hello, good evening. I think we've lost the caller. Kyle was talking about taking action, and you were also mentioning about taking action.
I think that's the only way out. Look, in a way, 2015 is going to come. But all that is happening in Abuja today, and maybe in all the capitals of Nigeria, is about 2015. Yeah. There's no governance. People are not being governed. What we are seeing is everybody is just looking for a way to either return to office or to get their cronies to be in power. But if you continue to run a country on this basis, then there can be no development. We should not lament. And I think I'm happy, I'm encouraged by the kind of thing that took place in Abuja, the National Assembly. We need more of this, but not just making this for the purpose of Twitter or Facebook activism. I mean, this kind of internet activism is good, but then it should not stop there. It is necessary, but it is not sufficient. What we need to do is to begin to mobilize our people, to begin to think in ways to see how we can change our society. Because you see, when you look at our country, we are blessed by God with huge human and natural resources, but unfortunately we have been afflicted with this virus of bad leadership. And unless we do something about it, Nigeria is not going to change.
Talking about affliction, before I let Kyle comment on the issue of what's being afflicted by bad leadership, I've got Alade. Alade, good evening. Good evening. Do we still have Alade there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're welcome to Politricks with Ko. Please make your contribution.
Yeah, I followed the Nigerian politics, and as a Nigerian, I'm completely confused. I do not know what we are doing. And I would like the panel to tell me, maybe it's time to actually encourage corruption. Because if we been discouraging corruption and it's been almost skyrocketed out of control, what do we do? Where do we go from not to what?
Okay, I've got somebody saying we should encourage corruption.
Let us be sincere with ourselves, and this is, I believe, this is not a situation where we need to joke about the very serious issues. And I remember 2 years ago, my organization, we had an inquiry where we tried to get data to find out that almost 92% of Nigerians in this country, they got here because of the corruption at home. They ran away. That's why sometimes we ask most of the Nigerians should be given a refugee status, because you find out they're being persecuted by this corruption we are saying. Yeah, I believe it's an issue that we need to really be serious about. And when we are talking of corruption, there's something that's even worse than armed robbery, worse than terrorism, worse than everything. Because by the time you visit, I'm a lawyer, we visit most of these armed robbers in prison. When you ask them, why did you manage to find yourself here? What they will mention is corruption. The kidnappers, corruption. So it's an issue that we should be so serious about.
And obviously, Alade was really frustrated. I mean, you get frustrated with the level of corruption, and it pushes you to some opinions. And of course, George. George, good evening, George. Good evening, George. Please make your contribution. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Woking. Yeah. Very interesting program. I always watch the guy in glasses on Focus Nigeria as well. Very, very, very good, very good-minded individual. And I support what they were saying. The two lawyers you've got, your guest. You know, a lot of Nigerians just tend to complain and, you know, talk, you know, without trying to make any effort. You know, I do watch a lot of programs on Ben TV, people call in, they just speak in general time, oh, Nigeria is rubbish, this is rubbish. No solutions, no actions, nothing to do to change the situation. But we got the social media. You can see how it's used in the Arab countries. People come together, they form chains, and they try to bind the evil forces away from the system. And now 2015 is approaching. I think this is when we need to harness Twitter and Facebook to begin to form a network of very powerful groups within and outside the country of positive people who want to see change, you know, and we form a good chain and begin to bind. Because at the end of the day, there's corruption everywhere. There's corruption here, but if the right people, if the right leaders are not there in power, and if we don't try to rally ourselves around to get the right people, the right political, what the other lawyer said about all the mainstream political parties is true. They're all the same. APC and all this, they're just the same. We need a new set of positive, like-minded people come together. Hello?
Barrister Aturu, you ran for governor of Lagos State at a time when nobody even would ever dare, people of that generation. As a matter of principle, it was on the platform of...
Democratic Alternative. You know, you see, we formed a party. I mean, that's basically, I mean, a socialist party. And, of course, they didn't give us any chance. And, of course, these guys are very good at rigging elections. But the point we were making was that, look, we had alternative blueprints. I mean, look, you come to London here, they tell you lots of stories about how government has no business in government in Nigeria. But you see that government intervenes in very critical areas, even in advanced capitalist societies.
So we went into politics to make a statement.
Yes, we made that statement. We made that point that we had a program and we could run Nigeria in a different way. But of course, because the powers that be, those who controlled the rigging apparatus of the...
And it's quite interesting to also know that Chief Gani Fawehinmi ran on the platform of
NCP, yes.
Of NCP, and Nigerians voted massively for the conscience of the nation. Are you interested in politics?
Well, if you recall, 2011, I ran for Senate in Abuja, and the story and what really happened, it's quite a state
So
here. But the issue is this: what we have to know is this.
No, I really need to point everybody. If people go into politics, people of good-minded people, and they can't break in, what do we do? But before then, I've got Chris on the line. Good evening, Chris. Hello. Good evening, Chris.
Okay,
I think we might have lost Chris. Yeah, I was just trying to make the point that why is it that people who have genuine intentions, if you don't go into the mainstream politics, you don't get a chance?
No, it's not. Let me tell you something. What we have to know is this: you have to believe in yourself. Like what we are discussing here, you have to walk the talk. It's not only every time you continue to sit and you talk. You must ensure, because one thing is this, and one funny thing you have to find out about Nigerian politics is this. You find out that most of those people, that they are having the lever of power. By the time you looked at them, by the time you looked at their background, by the time you looked at their pedigree, by the time you looked at what they've done, I'm sorry, there's nothing to be writing about. Home about them. And that's why you see most of the time, when people, the good people, those who know that they can pull this thing and they can pull it through, if they decide to sit back, to sit somewhere and they fold their hand, they will always have problems.
Okay, I don't know if we still have Chris on the line. Good evening. Good evening.
Name is of course Andrew.
Okay, Andrew, you're welcome. Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from London.
Okay, go ahead and make your contribution.
Yes, please. I just want to make an observation, really. Listening to the two gentlemen there, the two legal practitioners. I think the reality about politics in Nigeria, because you asked a question before that, why don't good people get into politics? And I think it is not all about being good or being bad. It's about the kind of politics that is being practiced in Nigeria, that is the politics of do or die. Whether if you don't win, something has happened. However, we can actually change, and it's true because you did mention that Jennifer may actually sat on the platform and he didn't win in courts. But why don't good people actually win elections? Election itself, or politics, is just like a business, actually, really. And for those who understand the business of politics, are supposed to be the ones doing the politics or the politicking. However, in Nigeria, what problem we have is that it seems that the same people that have been in politics since 1960 are the same one who's still going to dominate the politics of Nigeria. That is why Nigerian politics is moving nowhere. That's why we continue to have the rocks of what we have. Like the other person said, one of your colleagues said.
Okay, Andrew, because we're almost coming to the end of the program, and I do appreciate your phone call. I want you to call again next Thursday. I've got Chris. I want to give Chris the chance. Chris is back online. Good evening, Chris.
Yeah, good evening. Hi.
Please make your contribution and tell us where you're.
Hello. Hello.
Chris, make your contribution, please. We can hear you in the studio.
Yeah. Thank you very much for bringing the two lawyers to the studio. Because the Nigerian judiciary is well equipped with corruption. Though the two men sitting down there, they are corrupt to the level that they are the people that stand for the so-called politicians when they are being brought to.
Both of you have activist background. How come if I didn't study law in the university and I cannot take a case for Ibori, but I've got my activist friends who are lawyers who would take a case on behalf of Ibori and claim it's their professional duty?
Well, I think you need to be specific here. One thing I don't want people, I don't like people, do is try to just do a blanket criticism of everybody. If you know any activist who has taken any case that he or she shouldn't take, I think
Mike has taken.
Yes, then you deal with such activists on that ground, But I think it's important for us to know that if you say you're an activist and you believe in certain principles, you must then be very careful, about the kind of cases you take. I keep making this point. I'm not going to be a lawyer to everybody in this world. So I must choose. I know there is this carte blanche principle, which we are taught in common law. About the fact that, a lawyer is entitled to take briefs once he's paid his, fees. But, now in Nigeria, we've gone to a level where people must make up their mind as professionals to either side with those who are looting our treasuries or side with the people of Nigeria. So for me, I have my own principles. I will not defend a politician simply because he or she has money to throw around. But at the same time, I will go for the principles of the case. So if I see, for example, there are two politicians, maybe in the same party, somebody is going to be cheated, I would rather go for the underdog.
Before I let you round up, Kyle, what would be your last word on this program?
Your life was is very so simple. We're talking of principle. You must be able to stand for something. And once you stand for that, then that's it. If you know, like what he said, if you know you are going to the right, let us know you are the right. Then we know this is your position. Nobody will be disappointed. And if you know you are going to the left, let us know you are going for the left, so that nobody will have heartbreak. Okay. When you are trying to play both, that's when
I'm going to cut you short because I have to ask Bamidele Aturu, how is Babasure? Has he been able to?
Well, the matter is in the Supreme Court. We believe by the grace of God will get victory. But I think I need to take this opportunity, since I know the kind of audience that I'm probably before tonight, to let Nigerians who are in this country know that they also have a duty to do everything possible to ensure that we make our country better than it is. I know many of you are here, you are working hard, you left because you couldn't just stomach the nonsense that is going on in Nigeria. But if we leave that place for them, they are going to just destroy that country. Because there is a proverb in Africa that says that when you reject your clothes for a very dirty person, it will not only use it, it will destroy the cloth in the process. So I think that we must be having plans not only to relocate back home, but to go back home and then ensure that we compound their problem for them. Because if all of us come here, I know you have done your best. If some of you have not even come here, I know it will have probably been worse for us there. But please, whatever you can do, don't stop at just sending money to members of your family. See what you can do. Because you see, if Nigeria is better tomorrow, people from this country, I tell you, will be begging us to get visa to come to Nigeria.
On that positive note, I want to thank Barrister Ajulo and Barrister Bamidele, Barrister Aturu for coming on this program. It's been a fantastic day today. I also want to encourage you to call me to call into the show next Thursday. Nigeria is our country, no matter where we are. Like they did say, we need to actually think deep and go back. If we don't go back physically, you know, at least connect with the country. Politics is not the entitlement of a minority few. Politics is for everyone, and we need to take part. Even if you're not going to be active, we need to ask the right question. This is Politics with Ko. We want to thank Daniel, you know, for staying away for us. I mean, for his selflessness in making sure today's show is possible. And we want to thank you all for watching. This is Ben Television from London. We thank Ben TV for providing this platform. Good night and God bless you.
Every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Ben Television.
Watching Ben Television, the Bridging the Gap channel.